What if I told you that an ancient power slumbers within you, sealed by centuries of oblivion? A secret that belongs not to any religion, but to the very fabric of human consciousness. Edinburgh, 1723. Beneath the foundations of the Grand Lodge, a black granite chamber held an oak table on which lay a single object, a manuscript sealed with 33 wax seals. No one knew who had deposited it, nor what mystery it concealed. Only a phrase burned into the cover warned, "He who reaches the final stage is no longer the one who began the journey." For centuries, no one dared to break those seals. Those who attempted, seeing only blank pages and invisible ink, were lost in silence. Legend has it that the last master was not dead, but had ceased to require form. Before dissolving, he left his final revelation in that manuscript, readable only by those who had stopped seeking power and begun to remember the light. When the ego and the soul vibrate at different frequencies, the illusion of separation arises. These words were found engraved on the walls of his secret room shortly before his disappearance. Over the centuries, alchemists and sages spoke of the mysterious text, but no one ever showed it, since one cannot teach what must be remembered. What you are about to hear is not a narrative, but a frequency, an echo of consciousness that has survived time because it is written not on paper, but in the soul. The manuscript does not describe rites, but states of consciousness, 33 steps that transform the sleeping being into self-aware light. Reaching the ultimate level does not mean ascending, but remembering that there never was a ladder, but oblivion. Reality, the text stated, is not made of matter, but of intelligent vibration. Each level of human being is a note in the cosmic symphony. When all the notes resonate in harmony, the 33rd degree is not achieved. It is remembered, since it is the original state of being. There is no need to believe these words. Simply be silent and listen, since what follows is not information but resonance. If the soul recognizes them, it is because the inner seal has been broken, the manuscript has awakened, and with it, you too. If you feel like you're not here by chance, then stay. If you sense something moving inside, leave me a hype. Not just a simple gesture, but an energetic signal that will allow this message to reach as many people as possible, because the more consciousness is ignited, the more the world lights up. In the ancient initiatory tradition, before crossing the threshold of the temple, the aspirant was given an obsidian mirror. He was asked to gaze upon his own reflection until he saw the truth, not the face the world knows, but what dwells in the depths of the soul, the repressed, the denied. In a room without light or sound, the neophyte remained alone before his dark reflection. The journey began there, for the first ascent is always a descent. For years he had believed that spirituality was synonymous with light and serenity, but the text revealed an older secret. There is no gold without lead, nor a temple without foundations in the shadows. Before the mirror, the initiate saw his own image distort, fear, anger, envy, pride masked by humility. His mind rejected what society condemns and religion calls sin, but the manuscript taught that that very darkness is the fuel of transformation. Your shadow, the text read, is not an enemy, but a teacher. Everything you deny within you dominates you from the darkness. Imagine a creature nourished by every repressed emotion, every unspoken word, every tear held back. It lives in the depths of the unconscious, pulling the invisible strings of relationships and destiny, not out of malice, but out of a lack of recognition. The ancient masters knew that the dragon must be faced before it can be tamed, the beast looked in the eye before it can be redeemed. No healing is possible without recognition, no transmutation without acceptance. Alchemists call this process nigredo, the first death, the dissolution of the ideal self-image. When the masks fall, one glimpses the unfading light. True divinity is encountered only by traversing one's own humanity. To flee the shadow is to be forever pursued. To sit beside it is to rediscover the lost half of one's power. Every denied emotion holds a gift. Anger holds the power to set limits, fear the sense of instinct, sadness the ability to feel, pride the strength to shine. Integrating the shadow does not make us dark, but whole. To begin the journey, the text said, "Sit in silence and ask yourself, what part of myself have I rejected? What truth am I afraid to acknowledge? Don't run away when it reveals itself. Breathe and welcome it." The temple of consciousness has no doors for the fearful. Only those who dare to look at themselves without lies can pass through. When truth is reflected in the obsidian mirror, true alchemy begins. After the encounter with the shadow, the initiate was led into the fire chamber. In the center burned an eternal flame, and suspended above it was a simple clay amphora. The master handed him a piece of paper and ordered him to write down everything that was no longer there, every limiting belief, every identity that imprisoned him, every lie he uttered to survive. When the parchment was full, the instruction was only one: burn it. Fire does not punish, it liberates. After seeing one's own darkness, one must let the identity built upon it die. Alchemists called this phase calcinatio, the fire of truth that burns away lies, the fire of consciousness that awakens the sleeping body. The ego doesn't surrender easily, it fears dissolution. It is like a building made of experiences, fears, traumas, inherited beliefs. Each story tells a story of wounds. But the fire comes not to destroy, but to liberate, for that building is not a dwelling, but a prison. Most people, the manuscript said, don't live their lives, but rather react to an ancient wound. The ignored child becomes the adult seeking approval. The criticized child becomes the woman obsessed with perfection. The betrayed become incapable of trust. Every identity is born from an unhealed history. When the initiate fears losing himself without his masks, the master replies, "Exactly. Let the impostor die, and what remains will be true." To find oneself, one must lose oneself. To be reborn, something must die. Not the essence, but the armor forged by pain. Fire purifies because it reveals the diamond hidden beneath the ashes. The sacrifice required is not of blood, but of everything that has served its purpose. Bonds born of fear, roles that imprison, beliefs never questioned. Resisting fire generates suffering. Surrender transforms it into grace. Two kinds of pain accompany the initiate, that of resistance and that of surrender. The first perpetuates hell, the second opens the way to heaven. When old stories turn to ash, space remains. Space to breathe, to move, to be without having to prove it. And in that space, the original memory emerges. "Write," the master said, "what is no longer true about you, what you fear to let go, then burn it. The rising smoke does not destroy, it liberates. Fire does not lie, it consumes the false and preserves the real." In the most ancient temples, there was a crypt called the Tomb of the Living. It was a place devoid of light, sound, and time. Only the initiate entered, and the door was sealed from the outside. A question was carved into the floor: who are you when no one is watching? No guide awaited him beyond the threshold, only silence and the end of everything he thought he was. In that darkness, it was not the body that died, but the identity. The text warned that the greatest obstacle to enlightenment is not darkness, but the very idea of an I. Throughout our lives, we construct a character made up of roles, stories, and definitions. Every label is a gilded prison, and the ego clings to it like a castaway to his raft, fearing the question that dissolves all certainty: if I am not this, what am I? The ego is an actor who has forgotten his part. He identifies with the character and fears the end of the performance. Every morning he dons the mask of the professional, the parent, the friend, the sage, and forgets that the person wearing it cannot be the same person. If someone observes the role, then the role is not you. Thus the crack opens through which truth enters. As long as there is a self seeking the light remains unattainable, since the seeker is the very illusion that must be dissolved. It's not a matter of denying the body or thoughts, but of recognizing that the idea of separation is the true dream. When man asks, "Who am I?" the answer cannot come from words, but from the silence that remains after the questioner has vanished. The master of the manuscript narrated, "A man sought the truth. When the master asked him to reveal his self, he pointed to his body, then his mind. But the body changes, the mind fluctuates. They are not permanent." The master smiled and said, "See, what changes is not you." At that moment the man fell silent, and in the silence he understood that a separate self had never existed. Dying to the self is not an act of destruction, but of revelation. When all definition falls away, only what observes remains. The self does not die, it reveals itself to be illusory. It is like a wave that believes itself to be distinct from the sea until it realizes it is water. The fear of dissolving vanishes the moment you discover there is nothing to lose. The void that follows the end of the self is the cradle of authentic birth. The entire mental structure crumbles. One can no longer say "I suffer" or "I fear," since pain and fear are seen as processes that appear and disappear in the space of consciousness. The observer remains immutable. Many flee this experience, perceiving it as death, but it's not the end, it's the beginning. It's as if the walls of a room you've lived in forever dissolve. At first you feel lost, then you realize you're breathing infinity for the first time. When you understand you're not confined, freedom becomes your nature. The master's final instruction was simple: sit quietly and ask yourself who it is who sits. Every answer that appears is only a thought. Then ask yourself who is thinking it. Continue until no one answers, and only awareness itself remains. There, where the subject dissolves, truth manifests. When the ego dies, what remains is the silent witness, the eternal observer. The ancients called it the spirit, the one who sees without being seen. All life, thoughts, and emotions flow like rivers, but the witness is the unmoving shore. Understanding this is the beginning of true freedom. The manuscript warned, the witness is not indifferent, but absolutely present. He does not deny life. He embraces it. He does not reject emotions. He observes them until they dissolve in the light of awareness. The man who observes his thoughts without identifying with them ceases to be their slave and becomes master of himself again. The mind is like a screen projecting a movie. As long as you believe in the movie, you suffer and rejoice with the characters. When you become a spectator, you understand that it's only a representation. The witness doesn't try to freeze the images, but to recognize that they are not them. It's not detachment, it's lucidity. In inner silence, the mind calms like a pond that stops rippling. Only then is the true image of the self reflected. Every human being carries this stillness within, but the noise of thoughts drowns it out like a wind that disturbs the waters. When the agitation subsides, the unchanging truth appears. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the fullness of presence. People fear silence because in it masks fall away, but it is precisely there that the most ancient voice is found, that of the being that needs no words. In silence one does not learn, one remembers. The manuscript taught that humanity has forgotten the language of silence, replacing it with the constant din of the mind. Every worry, every internal dialogue, every repetitive memory is a wall between man and the source. Only natural, unimposed silence releases the chains and restores the soul to its original breath. A monk asked a master why, after decades of meditation, he hadn't found peace. The master replied, "You've never been in silence, only without external noise." Then the monk understood that even his spiritual quest had been a thought superfluous. In true silence, the mind is silent and the heart speaks. Every illness, the text said, stems from inner noise. Anxiety from thoughts of the future, melancholy from thoughts of the past, insomnia from not knowing how to turn off the mind. Silence heals because it dissolves the root of conflict. When the mind surrenders, life flows again. In that silence, man rediscovers that the world needs not to be fixed, but understood. Noise divides, silence unifies. Noise belongs to the ego, silence to divinity. And God, the manuscript said, never stopped speaking to you. It was you who spoke too much to hear him. In the next sanctuary, the initiate discovered the body of light. Sitting before a vase of pure water, he learned to perceive the subtle currents flowing through it. After hours of stillness, he felt his hands vibrate, his chest burn, his spine quiver. He then understood that the body is not matter but condensed energy. Modern science confirms it. There is no solid, only frequencies vibrating at different densities. The body is almost entirely space and informed light. The ancients called this field the subtle body, prana or chi, a river of energy that sustains life. Every emotion is a movement of energy, every thought a wave of frequency, every pain a blockage in the flow. When the inner river flows freely, there is health. When it stops, disease arises. Emotional shadows accumulate like invisible dams until the water becomes stagnant. Ancient healers knew that illness begins in the light body years before manifesting in the flesh. Every tension, every burden, every physical pain is the language of the soul crying out for transformation. The body doesn't lie, it speaks, and its language is energy. When a pent-up emotion is released, the river begins to flow again. Forgiveness opens channels of light, truth spoken dissolves internal knots. Renewed energy regenerates tissue, balances organs, awakens dormant forces. Mystics called it a miracle, but it's simply nature returning to its former state. Those who experience the body as vibration understand that healing does not come from outside. Every thought is a biochemical command, every belief a cellular command. Matter obeys consciousness, since it is consciousness itself that informs it. The physical body is the shadow of the light body. When the latter is purified, matter also realigns. You are not flesh animated by spirit, but spirit using flesh as an instrument. And what is not born cannot die. Remembering that you are light dissolves the terror of death, for it is not an end but a shift in frequency. The spirit never loses itself. It changes form, like the river that turns to fog and then back to rain. When the initiate senses the vibration coursing beneath the skin, he intuits the most ancient truth. He is the flow of light that permeates everything. Not a part of the cosmos, but the cosmos itself, recognizing itself in its own splendor. Between the two visible eyes lies a third, invisible and forgotten. It belongs not to the body, but to the soul, and its opening marks the transition from the perception of forms to the vision of essence. The ancients called it the eye of knowledge, a spiritual organ capable of perceiving direct light, not that reflected by the senses. In Egyptian rites, the initiate was confined for days in total darkness, until from the inner shadows emerged forms of light, geometries, and colors unknown to the physical world. In that darkness, the mind surrendered and a new vision dawned. The manuscript taught that the eyes of the body see a fraction of existence, but the eye of the soul contemplates the entire spectrum of being. In the brain, The text explained, there is a gland called the pineal, anciently believed to be the meeting point between soul and body. When it awakens, vision transcends the limits of matter. One sees not objects, but the energies that compose them, not appearances, but causes. True sight does not observe, it recognizes. Whoever opens this inner gaze can no longer be deceived, for lies vanish before the light of awareness. Everything becomes transparent. Masks fall away, intentions are revealed, reality reveals its subtle patterns. The initiate does not judge what he sees, but understands it, knowing that every shadow is a reflection of the same source. The spiritual eye doesn't just look outward, it penetrates the body, the memories, the lives the spirit has lived through. In it, the overall design of existence can be read. Every encounter, pain, or joy finds meaning, as consciousness finally contemplates the fabric of its own destiny. When vision opens fully, the world appears as a single face. There are no longer many, but one, reflected in infinite mirrors. The two eyes of the body see differences. The third sees unity. At that moment, the human being ceases to seek God, because he discovers that he has always been the gaze through which God observes. In the next sanctuary, fire took center stage again. It was called the sacred fire, the vital current that lies dormant at the base of the spine. The initiate sat in silence until he felt a warmth rising from deep within, a living energy coursing through his body like a conscious flame. It was not imagination, but real power, the force that generates life. The sages taught that this energy, when directed outward, creates material forms. When raised upward, it generates awareness. It is the same force that moves the stars, concentrated within man as a divine seed. The ignorant waste it in pleasure or fear, the masters transmute it into light. Repressing energy corrupts it, but elevating it transforms it into spiritual power. When passion sublimates, desire becomes prayer, and instinct becomes creativity. Thus, the initiate learned to breathe in his own energy, guiding it toward the crown, where earthly fire meets celestial light. This encounter is the birth of the integral self, the fusion of the masculine and feminine principles of matter and spirit. From this union arises the complete being, androgynous in soul, no longer dependent on duality but encompassing it. In it, will and love cease to oppose each other and become a single conscious act. Sacred energy is the same energy that artists call inspiration and mystics call ecstasy. It is the primordial spark that, when guided, fuels creation and healing. When humans learn to conserve and direct it, the body is renewed, the mind is clarified, the spirit expands. Fire does not destroy, it illuminates. After mastering fire, the initiate entered the temple of the heart. The mind led to the threshold, but only the heart could open it. In that place one did not study, one felt. The disciple listened to his own heartbeat until it harmonized with the universal rhythm, recognizing that every heart is an echo of the divine heart. Ancient science already knew that the heart thinks, perceives, and communicates. It is the seat of intuitive awareness, more powerful than the brain and capable of influencing everything around it. When energy rising from below reaches the heart, it becomes compassion, and knowledge transforms into wisdom. Without love, even spiritual vision is sterile. Power without heart breeds tyranny. Wisdom without warmth produces cold. Only unconditional love, which radiates like the sun and demands nothing, can transform knowledge into living light. True love does not possess, it welcomes and lets be. Every time we close our hearts to protect ourselves from pain, we also deprive ourselves of joy. Forgiving does not free others, but ourselves from the poison of hatred. Mature love embraces the world without demands, recognizing in every face a different expression of the same spirit. When the heart is fully open, it becomes a portal between earth and heaven. The fire of matter and the light of spirit merge into a single vibration. In that sacred center, conscious love is born, not a feeling, but a presence that transforms everything it touches. The final teaching declared that no external temple leads to the truth. The mind builds altars, but only the heart inhabits them. When the heart and mind unite, man no longer seeks the divine because he recognizes it as his own breath. In that moment, separation ends, and only the rhythm of the universe pulsating within the chest remains. The initiate was then led into the hall of conjunction, where two pillars, one black, one white, stood before him. He was instructed to touch both, feeling both the cold and the fire. Thus he understood that true mastery lies not in choosing, but in embracing opposites without fleeing from them. Everything in the universe dances between opposite poles, day and night, life and death, masculine and feminine, expansion and contraction. Humans too carry both natures within themselves. Denying either means losing balance. Wisdom lies in allowing them to work together like breath and heartbeat. Those who reject their masculine principle cannot manifest. Those who reject the feminine cannot welcome. Action without sensitivity generates harshness. Feeling without decision generates confusion. Only their integration produces wholeness. Harmony is not static but a conscious dance between opposing forces. Every internal conflict arises from polarities that clash. When one part of you wants to advance and the other to remain, the body suffers and the mind divides. Listening to both voices and letting them meet at the center is the art of the inner alchemist. In that union, opposites cancel each other out and the being becomes whole. The ancient formula dissolve and reassemble concerns not metals, but states of the soul. First, illusions must be shattered, then reassembled into a higher form. Only those who have faced their shadow, burned away the false self, and passed through symbolic death can reach the synthesis that unites all. The manuscript concluded that at the 33rd degree, the human being becomes cosmic androgynous, a fusion of all polarities. He is firm as stone and fluid as water, severe and gentle, silent and creative. Nothing can harm him anymore, because nothing is alien to him. Everything that exists vibrates in his very breath. Those who have integrated opposites are unpredictable and invulnerable. They respond to violence with meekness, to chaos with order, to order with freedom. They don't react, they harmonize. They are the immobile point around which the world revolves. True fulfillment does not consist in conquering darkness or escaping matter, but in recognizing that light and darkness come from the same source. There are not two principles, but a single consciousness playing at mirroring itself. The lover and the beloved, the seeker and the found are one being who remembers. In the manuscript's final silence, the echo of his words dissolves into a single revelation. All that exists is one. Two wings support flight, but the bird is one. Two columns support the temple, but the temple is one. Two breaths animate life, but life is one, and you are that life that observes itself, remembering that you have always been light. Now you know that the path does not lead upward, but toward the center. Everything you sought was not outside, but within your own vibration. The manuscript has awakened, but only you can keep it alive, choosing the light of awareness every day over the sleep of habit. If this journey has resonated with you, share your hype to expand the resonance of this message. Write the word awakening in the comments to imprint your intention over time, and subscribe to the channel to continue walking together beyond the veil of the ordinary. I wish you eyes that see the truth, a heart that doesn't fear the light, and a silence that knows how to listen to the eternal. See you soon, traveler of consciousness.